Welcome to Girl Talk with your girl Melissa. And listen, what a show we have today. Wanted to have two beautiful couples join me today to talk about Black love. I mean, in social media and on the news, a lot of times we see negative connotations regarding Black love and couples. But today I want to have an opposite effect and have a conversation about what works, what doesn't work, and how these two beautiful couples have lasted over 25 plus years. And I think both of them met in college. So that is something to talk about. They have grown kids and they've lasted. So today we're going to talk about that. And hopefully at the end of this, we or someone will have an experience with their own relationship. Someone will say, I have an aha moment, learn something that they can add. And more importantly, they will introduce me to their uncle, their grandfather, their cousin, somebody, because a sister don't want to be single no more. I want some Black love too. So without, yeah, grandfather, at this point, I take it.
Oh my gosh.
So without further ado, I'd love for the couples to introduce themselves, and I'll start over on my right from Heath and Tracy. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been married.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're so thrilled to be
Girl
here.
Talk.
So thrilled to be here. My name is Heath.
I'm Tracy.
I met Tracy on the campus of Howard University many years ago. And we've been married now for 31 years. We do have 4 adult children. Tracy and I are both working in the tech space as well as creating our brand around a number of other things. And so we are, one of the things that we do is make sure that we are engaged with one another every day. And it's really about maintaining the joy in the relationship, and anything else, what you give attention to grows. And so you hear people talk about the grass being greener on the other side. What Tracy and I always think about is that means that somebody is watering that grass. So I'm a grass waterer.
He is a grass waterer, y'all. Yeah, and we love this, Melissa. So nice to meet you, Rob and Sharice. It is just so cool to be here and talk about being married and being Black. Mm-hmm. People don't think it's happening out there. I was telling a friend of ours that there's a group of us, our friend group. There are about 7 couples, and we've all been married 25 years or more. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because people are like, yeah, people don't even know we exist. We feel like endangered species or something. So
unicorns.
This is great. This is really, really great. And we just want to say thank you.
All right. So Sharice and Rob.
What's good, Melissa? You already know our story. I don't even know why you on here trying to front. We was tri-mates. We all was in college together. And we all met at SUNY Oswego. And once I met Sharice and Melissa were roommates. So then I just casually moved in. That's the way it was until we left school. So,
yes.
Casually moved in.
Yeah,
casually moved
in. But and they took care of me, both of them. Melissa's
they both
my
took
sister,
care of you.
so
yeah.
I love her to death. So,
absolutely.
We've been married 25 years. Mm-hmm. Now we have 2 grown children, Alicia
awesome?
and Tiffany. Both very successful doing their thing, so we're very blessed and proud of that. And listen, to last any amount of years in marriage, it takes a lot of commitment, takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of communication, takes a lot of love. And for me, I know that I came from a divorced parent situation. And so when I got married, I said that I was going to do everything in my power to make my marriage last, because it's seldomly seen out here.
Right.
It seems like as soon as a couple meets adversity, they automatically just give up. But you can't give up. You got to keep trying. You got to keep striving. And, the way that we've stayed together, I know I'm speaking a lot and not letting my wife speak, but I know that with the grace of God is the way we've stayed together this long, because it hasn't gone without trials and tribulations. It's not like it's always smooth sailing, but through the grace of God, through prayer, through trying to work things out, everything is still going strong. And, I'm blessed to have her.
That was awesome.
Bravo.
Cherise, you have any words?
Listen, I co-sign everything that he said. I'm happy to be on. I think this is a necessary conversation that needs to be had for our Black women out there.
Absolutely. There's hope.
Oh, most
Yes,
definitely.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
There's hope.
There's definitely hope. I think it's important to note that being married more than 20, 25, 30 years, I think people need to have an understanding of what Rob said. Is it's not perfect, y'all. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. If it were perfect, what's really going on? So we have learned to wade through the imperfection, and this is daily. We're wading through the imperfection daily. We are figuring out how to love each other every day. And I think that's what people give up on. I think they give up on saying, this is not going to be perfect today, but I'm going to stick with it. And if you just take it daily, I think you figure it out. And for all the ladies out there that think that it's not going to happen for them, or it's like some far off thing, got to change your mind first. I love how Melissa said that she ready for granddaddies, uncles, brothers, cousins. I mean, that's where you have to be. You have to be there first. Right. And so many of us, and I'm just going to say us because I'm a Black woman, but I don't want to point fingers, but so many Black women have really given up. They've given up on the fact that they can be loved in the way that they want to be loved. And you have to figure out how you want to be loved first before you know to tell somebody love. I think I saw an article today that said, I tell Heath how to love me. And if you can't tell someone how to love you, they're not gonna know you. We didn't sign up to be mind readers for the last 20 years. We figured out how to tell each other, I don't like that. That hurt my feelings. That was too whatever. Yeah. Or I like it when you do that. Yeah. Or I want some more of that. Yeah. You've really got to figure out how to open your mouth.
But and I think a lot of it, and this show is not about single women, right?
Right.
But a lot of it is the confidence, right? The confidence that single women, we have to contend with what we see on TV, that is what is the standard of a woman, and that the men are gravitating to, but also there is a shorter pool of men that are available. The good men, in our opinion, are married, right? So you have a shorter pool of men to choose from, but that's another show. I want to talk about, Rob, you touched on coming from a family that your parents were divorced. I'm a single mother. My daughter has not seen what a relationship should look like. So how did you model yourself to be 25 years plus strong in this marriage, and you didn't quote unquote have a model, like your parents weren't together? And Heath and Tracy, I want to talk about the same for you. Yeah. I know you both had parents together, but what was the impact on how, what did you draw out of that?
Well, I'll say this, that I think I don't know if I think that's an excuse sometimes that people need a model. I think that if you want to do something and you put your mind to it, then you can do it. It doesn't matter if you have a model or not. like you don't always have, there's always not a role model always available. So you have to have it within your being to want to do something. And this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted for it to last. Now, again, I'm not perfect. And I think that a lot of women maybe be looking for perfection from their partner. They're looking for that perfect guy. He got to have the money, he got to have the looks, he got to have this, he got to have that. But you might be selling yourself short for a good person. You don't necessarily need to be judging from what you see or what is in a person's bank account and stuff like that. You might be losing out on a perfectly good individual that is flawed, because we are all flawed. It doesn't make a difference. I've heard of relationships breaking up because this person is a little bit messy, or this person is this, or this person is that. Doesn't make a difference. Divorced. You can try and work. All of that stuff is workable.
Right.
It's just communication. Like Tracy said, she says, I tell my husband what I like and what I don't like. And then it's up to me to want to work on that. If I don't work on it, then that's where we're going to have issues and problems. But if I try to work on it and then my partner does the same thing, or when I say something, then that's how it works. But I didn't necessarily have the perfect role model, but I wasn't looking for the perfect role model. I just knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to try and what I wanted to accomplish. Yeah. And that's something that I wanted once we started having children, and now I have 2 daughters, as you know, I wanted them to see a stable relationship that went through drama, went through problems, but stayed together and worked through it.
Beautifully said. Sharice, you got anything to add on that? Because,
Definitely. I also came from a divorced parents, and I use that to put fire in me to say this is something I do not want. I do not want that type of parenting, and I do not want that type of household. And that's what drove me to be the mama bear that I am with my kids, to stay in the marriage and to do the best that I could with what I had. So I tried to do the opposite of what I grew up in.
Yeah.
Same here, Sharice. I was a product of 2 divorces. 2 yes. divorces. Yes. 2. So I agree with you 100%. I wanted to see it done properly. And to be honest, my grandmother was my rock because she was the constant. Everybody else was, moving around. So
I agree. I have the same thing. Strong.
Yeah, my grandmother was my rock.
The praying grandmother.
Yeah, she was the one that exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's the one that gave me that solid foundation of me and what to expect from a man. Heath's experience was very different, though, wasn't it, babe?
Yeah, my experience was a bit different. Where my parents were married 47 years, before my father passed, and for me, it was really excellent to have good models to see, not only in the household but also in the community where I grew up, and friends and other family members and those kinds of things. But aside from that, right, I thought Rob made an excellent point earlier, right? Regardless of what you saw, what you were a product of, what your environment was, what was so important that Rob and I have in common is that we made a decision.
I heard that.
And so for me, it was all about the decision that I made, that I wanted to get married. I wanted to get married once, and I was determined to stay married and to be happy in my marriage. So those were the things that I carried with me from a very young age. And so for me, once Tracy and I got married, then divorce just was not an option.
It just really wasn't for us.
So in terms of...
And your boo is behind you cheesing. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you make the decision, right? You make the decision and you move with it. And so to the point that Rob was making earlier is that now you have life that comes at you. And so within the context of the decision that you've made, what you have to do is you have to navigate it, right? Because it's not going to be in the way that you envision. It's not going to be a Disney show. It's not going to be, rainbows and lollipops all the time. And so what you have to do is you have to go into that with the proper attitude. If this happens, it's not about, okay, well, I'm done, I'm throwing my hands up. It's about how you think about what happened, how you think about what your queen communicated to you, how you think about those things that you see in the mirror when you look at it, go, yo, man, you got to work on this, you got to work on that, or that's going to be a problem for you. And I don't like problems because I like to be happy. So guess what I do? I work on the problems.
Yeah. And I think it's great because although you have I'm giving you this platform today to speak to others, I don't think, like, I've spent time with both of you. Of course, more time with my family over here, but you don't know the impact that you make on people that are watching you from the outside. So, I know that's why I asked both of you, because I knew the relationships that you have with each other. I've watched Rob cater to his wife. I've watched Heath cater to his wife, and vice versa. So the impact that you have on others is also awesome. And I think, a lot of people will show stuff on the outside. That's really not what's going on the inside. And I don't think any of you are displaying that at all.
Transparency.
So one of the things, he said is, you are a grass waterer. So I'd like to hear from both of the couples of what happens when you water the grass, what happens when you don't water the grass, and how do you water the grass? What are some of the things that you do?
Ooh, good Lord.
Or don't do, and then what happens?
Good Lord.
So I had to learn that. I had to learn early in my marriage how to water the grass, because as a young woman, you finish college, I had a baby, I had a new baby. I wasn't thinking about him. I was like, I need to worry about me. I had a home. I think he came to me one day. He said, I feel like I've been lied to. I said, excuse me? We've been married maybe, a year or two? Because I wasn't watering the grass.
So what does that mean? You're saying watering the grass, but what does it mean?
I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't.
That means I wasn't giving him none. I wasn't cooking. I wasn't cleaning. What does it mean?
I wasn't cooking. I wasn't cleaning. I was working. I had never done that before. I'd never been a wife, been a mother, been a housekeeper, been a cook, worked. I'd never done all of that before. So I stopped doing what I didn't want to do anymore. I stopped cooking. I stopped cleaning. We had this little cute house that his parents gifted us in the hood, and I hated it. And the kitchen, I didn't grow up like that. The kitchen was horrible. And I was like, what, you want me to cook in this? It was one of those kind of things. And he was so confused. And it took him forever to say to me, I need this. So once he said, I need this, I said, oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, I was taking care of him. That wasn't the problem. We got 4 kids to prove that. But it was the cooking, and it was the cleaning. It was the whole homemaking aspect of it in our first couple of years of marriage. I was really confused, So that's where I didn't really water the grass. The other thing it took me a long time to learn was edification. Lifting him up. Letting him know he's a good man. He's a good looking man. He's a great provider. He's a great father. I love the way you love me. That whole thing, that whole juicy thing you say to your man when you want to make him feel good. It took me a while to figure out that he needed to hear those words from me. He needed to hear and feel that I really felt that way. And it actually took me so long that he got it from somewhere else. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, baby. And so when that happens, I know I put you out there, right? When that happens, right?
La 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 la. Do not destroy my image of my Heath.
You see this? Not physically. Let me be clear. It was not physical. But the whole thing is that when and I'm gonna be honest, I've done a little bit of that myself, because when you're not watering the grass, it's natural for you want to be watered. It's natural for you want to hear that. So when your lives get busy, when life starts coming at you, you forget the little things. I think when people talk about their love zones, what do you call it? Their love
languages.
Their love language.
Love language.
It's so important to figure out what those are and do that. That's watering.
Listen, we had a full conversation at a barbecue on this love language. And they made it so complicated. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be single. Because the way that they made it, it was just like, you got to know this and know that. And it intermingles and it jives with. I'm like, okay, no, forget it. I grew up in a household, Heath. I had both of my parents. And so my question for you as Tracy is talking is, were you expecting her to do what your mom did for your dad?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you have a paradigm, right, of like what your experience has been, what you've seen, to the early point that I was making, right, like how your parents did it, how your aunts did it, how your uncles did it, how people in the community did it, right? And so for me, I had a certain paradigm going into marriage, and you have, a lot of things. Another thing I talked to Tracy a lot about is that, especially in the Black community, so many of us have been impacted by religion. Right. And so, the man and the head of the household and these kind of traditional values that feeds into, and all of these things, where what I've learned in my 31 years of marriage is you work it out in the way that y'all need to work it out. Right. And so if Tracy is better at this thing and I'm better at that thing, and that might not be a traditional way of approaching it, it's like, who cares? Ain't nobody in this house, in this marriage, just got to make this thing work except us.
Right.
So from that perspective, I think that's so important to understand, is that when two people get together, you're on one accord and you're going to figure things out, especially if you want to stay married, right? That's another thing that one of our friends says all the time. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be married?
Right.
And that's a whole nother piece that people get into it.
They've been married 30 years too.
And I don't like that. And I don't do it this way. And and I think you, right. And so you start getting into that, and you want to have these engagements and these arguments with your person. If you just gonna stand right there where you are, and just cause you got to be right,
you won't be married.
You do that long enough, and you might still be right, but you ain't gonna be married. And
so that's some deep stuff. So Sharice, I'm coming to you. What do you think watering the grass means?
Well, to be honest with you, we're going through a stage now where we're empty nesters. And so I feel like right now we're still learning each other.
Right.
As new people. We've been together since we've been in our 20s. You change when you go to 30. Right. You change when you go to 40.
None of you do. None of you do.
50. And now we're looking at things a little bit
None of you do.
I don't look 50 though. See, I don't look 50 though. I still got my.
So now we want new things. We want to change old ways. We have a hindsight now. We kind of learn, like Tracy said, you learn as you're going. You're a new mom. You started young. Yep. You did what you had to do to survive. But now that we're older and wiser, we're able to speak to things now that we want, that we might not have been comfortable to speak to. And so our communication is growing. And so right now, I feel that we are in a different journey right now. So for me, I would say I'm still learning how to water.
I want to double click into that. I think that's really important to understand, is that especially for younger people, right? And so just thinking about your audience, and what happens is you evolve as a person, and you're always learning, and it's always different stages. And just because you're this way at 30 doesn't mean you'll have like those same exact thought patterns and processes at 40 and 50 and so on. And so what's so important is that you have this constant communication with this person that you're joined with, so that you continue to grow and evolve together, and that way that's going to help you out so much.
I always tell people Heath is not the man I married.
Yeah.
And I am not the woman he married.
And
so whenever people say that, I'm like, y'all confused, because
Right.
it's not, you're not going to be.
No.
You are not going to be the same you were 20, 30, 10 years ago. You're not going to be the person you were a year ago. I hope we have some growth going on here.
Yeah, you should be. And the other piece of that is, I don't know about you, Heath and Tracy, but Rob and Sharice, when you two got together and started having children and getting married, our brains technically weren't even developed yet. We were young.
Yes.
You grew up together.
Yeah, we grew up together from I was 19. Met Sharice when I was 18.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're talking about 25 years of marriage, but it's been longer than that. The journey's been longer than that. So we was both kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we had our own baggage from our families. And we're now trying to start a family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it was a long journey. And through that journey, there's changes, there's growth. There's times where you disagree, there's times where you agree. But the thing is that people don't understand about marriage is work. A lot of work. And if you ain't willing to put in the work, if you love the person that you with, that you said you married and you committed to, if you don't love that person, then you're not going to put in the work. But if you love that person, when that person is telling you that, and you're growing together and she's telling you or he's telling you, this is what I need, or this is where I need you to change, or this is what I need you to do, you won't fight it. You will try to go with that change and try to grow and grow together. Yeah. And that takes work, because we all have egos, we're all stubborn, we all got our own ways, we all want to do things the way we want to do it. I don't want to conform to what she's telling me to do. I want to be my own man. She doesn't want to conform to what I'm telling her to do. She wants to be her own woman. But in a marriage, that don't work. And so you'll be at the courthouse figuring it out, trying to split it up. But if you want to work,
that's the part. Yeah. I don't get that part. I don't get it when people go, I'm going to get a divorce. It's like, oh my gosh, you want to talk about having some real problems? Watch somebody go through a divorce. Yeah. And we've seen people do it, and it's just like, wow. Yeah. It was really worth that you did all of that.
And I've never been married, so I can't decide. I can't judge someone who's married. I can't judge someone who has been divorced. But I do hear that going through a divorce is just like going through a mourning of a death.
Yeah, they said it's like death. I can't imagine. But you are not only dividing your lives, you're dividing personal assets, you're dividing living things, children, pets, families, friends. You will lose half your friends. You're going to lose half your friends. And you really have to stop. I think out of all of our groups that got married around the time we got married, one couple divorced. And it was hell. Every time you talk to one of them, it was like, you're crazy. It was like they were literally insane for like 3 years. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, it's such a weird thing to us. It's foreign to us. But I'm not advocating staying in a marriage that is, abusive, toxic, or, toxic or anything like that. No, absolutely not. But people get divorced for really, really minor things.
Yeah. I think
like the way they spend money or the way they look. I want to say one thing while we're here. Mm-hmm. What Rob was describing is so important in terms of the work that you put into a relationship
And for the context of your audience, Melissa, another thing I wanted to accentuate is that when you see people, like if there is a 30-year-old woman in your audience, let's say, right, when she sees me, she sees someone who is quote quote successful, someone who is dashing and debonair, and looks good and has a nice home and a nice car and all. What you see is the evidence of what this woman has poured into me, right? The work that has been done over this 31 years. So the point I want to capture is that person that you may meet wherever they are in their lives, one of the powerful things that happens in marriage is that you build one another up.
Yeah.
That is very true, Heath. Is a lot of times we have qualifications and we don't know the backstory on what those individuals have been through, what woman is standing behind them and in front of them and on the side of them to make everything work. But, I really want to know, we've talked about all the great things in a marriage. No marriage is perfect. So what are some of the road, the pitfalls in marriage that you have to overcome? And I think one thing I wanted to say to you, Rob, was that you guys kept going, although there may have been a bump in the road, or Heath and Tracy, there may have been a bump in the road. You kept going, and that's the difference, I believe, with those couples that get divorced. You hit a bump in the road and they think it's the end of the road, and it's not. So you just kept going. But what are some of those pitfalls that individuals can avoid, or that, you might not? You might agree to disagree, right?
Right.
You're not going to avoid the bumps. You're just not.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
It's life.
Things are just not going to be great all the time.
Life.
You're not going to wake up every morning and she's going to look like, oh my God, I'm just so wonderful. Sometimes you look at each other, you're like, what am I doing here? I think it's just normal. Yeah. It's just normal, Sometimes, like, we have this thing. We have a morning show on Saturdays, and sometimes we tell our audience, we say, y'all, we not vibing this morning. We just get everybody ready, And it's just like, we have to be here. We're on this show talking, y'all, we not vibing this morning. Uh-huh. So it's just, once we've accepted that about each other, I think that is how you avoid the pitfalls. There's really no other way. You have to laugh about them. You have to accept them. You have to jump over them, go through them. We always talk about going through things. What about you, Rob and Sharice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's life. Life is crazy. Life is all things are always happening. The world is always changing. And so you're gonna come across different obstacles in your marriage, from something that's really heavy to something that's very minute. But the difference with people who are still together and people who are not together is that you making a choice because I love this person, and I said I made a commitment to through what's that, better and for worse, sickness and in health,
all of that.
So listen, this is the person I love. This is the person I said that to. So this is what I'm trying to do. So no matter what it is, if the two individuals want to work through it, they can. Whatever it takes sometimes.
You're so right.
Sometimes you might need outside counseling. So a third ear. You need to sit together and meditate and pray together. Whatever works for you. But if you want it to work, you can make it work. It's when you don't want it to work anymore, then you just give up and you say, I'm through. And then you just walk out the door. But that's just a selfish way of thinking, if you ask me, because there's so much more involved with your split than you might even imagine. So You hurt so many other people as well. Aside from yourselves, you're scarred. So, to me, like, it's like I said before, it's work, and you got to be able to put that work in. And like Heath said, and Tracy said, you're gonna come across obstacles and things in that, and you just got to work through it because they're coming. They're gonna come. And the devil don't want to see you happy, so it is what it is.
Mrs. Preston, anything you want to add there?
Definitely. There's always going to be ups and downs with any relationship, marriage, your family, your in-laws. You have to learn how to persevere, push through. I put God first, always, to lean on for faith, for help. You have to give forgiveness. You have to be strong. Only the strong will survive. And let me tell you, the world is out there to beat you up. People will come and poke at you and try to get in and destroy. The devil is real, but you got to be stronger. But you're going to go through it. But you're going to go through that whether you're single, dating, with your family, marriage. This is just another institution where you're two people coming together and saying, we're going to beat this. We're going to do this. Right. We're going to win. And you know what? We're Black. And we're young, and we're doing it.
Amen. So I got a question. So do you think that, because I know Sharice is an introvert, Rob is definitely not an introvert. I'm guessing you're the introvert. Tracy is the extrovert. Am I right?
Tracy's like no.
All right, so you just destroying my whole persona of Heath Turner right now.
you think Heath Turner is an introvert?
Yeah.
Well, I think that. I think what Melissa sees, I think what Melissa perceives is that you have such a strong will, and that you bring a certain energy to conversations.
I do have that energy.
And so people typically will see us and think that, okay, well, Tracy's personality is a bit more dominant than Heath's. But if you think about it in the context of being introverted or extroverted, then I am the one who suffers from chronic loquacious diarrhea or dysentery. And I will talk with anybody about anything in any place, and we'll have a good conversation because that's just me. That's just how I'm wired.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any friends if it wasn't for Heath.
Really? You the introvert, Tracy?
I'm like, hey, we moved into this new neighborhood last year, and the neighbors knock on the door looking for him. They're like, oh, you must be Tracy. Yeah. You looking for Heath? Okay, hold on.
That's hilarious. So do you think opposites attract?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely opposites.
No question.
We're definitely opposites. Yeah.
So here's my last question for everyone in the group, or last statement. So I want you, Preston family, to ask the Heath the Turner family a question that you might want to know about marriage, and vice versa.
So what do you all think when we watch? Sometimes we watch Black Love on TV. You ever watch that show?
I have in the past, yes.
What do you think? Just what is your overall thinking around that show? I'm just curious. I'm really, really curious.
She's gonna answer that.
Give it to me.
Initially, I loved it because the premise of the title, Black Love, is like, yes, we are able to have marriages and love each other and last. And when I hear their stories, it's like, okay, normal. They had some ups and they had some downs. But to be honest with you, what I gleaned from it was that I like that some. And maybe it's too personal, but I feel like some of the men, they were able to speak more freely about their emotions and what they've been through. But I'm thinking maybe that's because they've been to counseling and maybe they've been prepped or the fact that, oh, this is beautiful, Black love, and oh, I love Oprah, and I'm like, oh yes.
Good question.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well,
so yeah, I don't like the show.
Oh, you don't like it? Oh, wow. Why?
I don't like it. I don't like it because it's almost like they they show people. It irritates me when they show people who haven't been married long enough to give advice. It's like I like the shows where they talk about their experiences.
Oh yeah,
I do like those shows. But the shows where they have people that have been married 2 years giving advice and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my God, no, stop! What's going on? You know? And it's not a disagreement about the advice. Absolutely. It's just like, how do you know? You know, it's like I just want to go, how do you know that? You know, so that's the only thing I wish they would stop doing, is stop asking them, you know, advice things. I love to hear the experience stories. I love to hear the funny stories. I love to hear the how we met.
Yes.
You know, their pitfall stories. I do love those stories. But and I love them showing us in that light. But what's beginning to happen is these couples are getting divorced. And it's having a different effect on the community, because the community is like, see, look, see. And it's just like, I want them to stop. I want them to stop saying, you know, maybe they should do a show on, look, we were on Black Love, but now we divorced. I don't know.
I never even heard of the show. Never even heard of it.
It's on Oprah's
no.
channel.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have cable, y'all.
Okay.
I'll use Sling TV.
Oh, okay.
Prestons, did you have a question for the Turners, or are you good?
Well, I wanted to ask how, now that we're in this empty nester phase, we're trying to do the social thing. And how do y'all do social? Do you do it with couples only, or do you kind of go out on your own? Tracy and Heath goes out on his own, and then sometimes you come together.
Yeah, I go out on my girl dates with my girlfriends in the area. We'll do, you know, a lunch or a brunch, you know, a wine bar. But most of the time we're all friends. So it's hard, I guess, for us just to do one-on-ones more so. We're all friends, all the couples. So we always do couple things.
Okay.
We always do, either at our house or their house, or we went to the Guinness factory a couple weeks ago. So it's we actually make an effort at it, though. That's the difference.
Speakeasies.
That's so cool.
Dinner.
Yeah. So you got to make an effort.
We do a lot of double date. Thing. You know,
make an effort.
3,
Tell
4
your
couples,
friends we
2
need
couples.
to do that. Yeah.
You know, we still have single friends. You know, we kick it with Melissa whenever we. It's been a few years now.
Rob and Sharice make me drinks when I roll up through New York.
That's right.
I stay at their house.
Always welcome.
But yeah, I think one last thing, and then I know we're getting close to the time. We're over time, but listen, this was a great conversation. But I want each of the couples to add advice. What's a word of advice that you would give another married couple? Start with Sharice and Rob, and then Heath and Tracy will end with you, so you could talk more about your initiatives. Rob and Sharice, if you have any initiatives that you want to expose to the listeners, please feel free to do so. But we'll start with you. What's one word of advice that the two of you want to give? Now I'm going to start with Mr. Preston, because he's been quiet for the last few minutes.
I think the main thing is love. Love each other. That's it. Just love.
Put God first. First of all, to get yourself together, your own mind, body, and soul. You're able to do all the things like build them up, build yourself up. And
oh, it's beautiful. Oh, the prestige.
Love that.
Heath and Tracy?
Yeah, so I would say make it all about the other person, right? Get outside of yourself and spend your energy on anticipating the needs of the one that you are married to. And what you will find will happen is that person will be so overwhelmed and so overjoyed that they will have no choice but to make it all about you. And that will result in this beautiful centrifugal force that Rob is describing as love, because you have your house in order, and that energy just comes back. It can't help but to.
Absolutely.
Mine is get a maid and a cook.
We got the maid, no cook.
Get a cook. I'm telling y'all, you can, the chefs do delivery now because the pandemic, turned them into delivery people. So many young chefs out there want to bring you food. And I love it. I cook when I want to. I cook when I'm like, oh, I want to make this. But I don't have to cook, and I don't clean my house. And it has done wonders for me. So when I'm able to get that off my plate, guess who gets all that extra energy? Not only do I get it, I get to work out more. I get to, TikTok more or whatever it is I want to do, twiddle my thumbs, change my hair, and I get to do him more.
Oh, shit.
I'm keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real.
Can I get that chef's number?
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, can I get the chef's number all the way to where you are?
Yeah, facts.
Oh man, this has been an absolute pleasure. I want Tracy and Heath to talk about any of the you have your own podcast, you have other ventures. Did you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, guys, you can check out more of Tracy and Heath, or Heath and Tracy, at Joyfully Married After. We have a podcast, and you can listen to that on anywhere you listen to podcasts. We also have a live Saturday morning show, and Heath has Tech Talk on Tuesdays, and we have Joyfully Married After coming on Mondays at Heath and Tracy TV on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel, Heath and Tracy TV, and you can listen to Joyfully Married After podcast anywhere.
All right.
Awesome.
Listen, it has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with the people that I'm the biggest fans of. So my favorite people, and it was great catching up with you, all of you. Sharice and I talk, and I talked to Rob through Sharice, but Heath and Tracy, we don't even talk as often as we should. But I'm so glad, Tracy, that you accepted my ping, and we were able to have a conversation, and you instantly said, yes, I'll do it. So I think it would be great if you two got together, exchanged information, and perhaps when you're in each other's cities, you are connecting. So you made a connection here today with the couples. But thank you so much for joining. Thank you to all my listeners. We hope that you get something out of this. And as always, I see you because I am you.